Hey everyone, welcome to Recap Blitz. The story begins with a mischievous boy named Theo. He was notorious for his tricks and clever schemes. One of his favorite habits was using the lure of video games to get others to do his homework. At home, Theo was no less a troublemaker. Instead of entering his room through the door like a normal kid, he would climb the pipes on the outside of the house and slip in through the window, grinning all the while. One ordinary afternoon, Theo went up to the roof, happily munching on a banana. As he finished eating, he carelessly tossed the peel off the edge. But instead of hitting the ground, the peel suddenly disappeared into thin air. Shocked, Theo leaned over the edge, listening intently. There was no sound of it hitting the floor. Bewildered, he hurried downstairs to check, only to find that the banana peel was nowhere to be found. Curiosity burning inside him, he picked up his roller skate and threw it down. But just like the peel, it vanished midair. His astonishment grew with every passing second. Determined to test it further, he tossed a small stone, and yes, it vanished too. Excited and confused, Theo ran to tell his older brother, Oscar, about the strange portal he had just discovered. The boys lived with their grandmother, as their parents were no longer around. However, Oscar was far from the mood for excitement. Earlier, Theo had torn pages from their mother's old books to make paper rockets, which had infuriated Oscar. Now, when Theo tried to explain the discovery of the portal, Oscar only thought he was joking or playing a prank. But the truth behind Oscar's seriousness was heavier. Some years ago, their mother had mysteriously disappeared. Theo, in his innocent imagination, believed she had run away. Oscar, however, had a more serious theory. Their mother was a brilliant scientist working on time portals, and she might have gotten trapped in another era. Oscar's goal was to understand her research and bring her back. While the two brothers argued, their grandmother called them for lunch. For a brief moment, both of them fell silent out of respect, but the peace was short-lived. The moment she left the room, the argument resumed with full force. In a fit of anger, Oscar snapped at Theo, and Theo, in a flash of revenge, threw Oscar's beloved turtle into the portal. Oscar was frantic. He searched everywhere for his precious pet, posting missing posters and calling its name repeatedly. The turtle, however, remained missing. Theo, realizing the gravity of his mistake, felt a pang of guilt and decided to fix everything. He jumped into the portal. On the other side, he found all the things he had thrown: the banana peel, the roller skate, the stone, and most importantly, the turtle. Carefully, he picked up the turtle and brought it back home, returning it safely to its place. Exhausted, Theo fell asleep, relieved that at least this crisis was over. But the next morning brought something even stranger. Theo was still asleep, but Oscar was already up and ready for work. The shocking truth was that Theo had somehow traveled from 1990 to 2022 using the mysterious portal. In this future, Oscar had grown older and was now a respected physics professor. That day, Oscar went to a shop run by a man named David to pick up some supplies. Soon after, David's daughter, Alina, arrived at the shop. David and Alina had been good friends for years. David had quietly admired her since childhood, though he had never confessed. Alina, now divorced and a mother of two, worked as an English professor at Oscar's university. Even after all these years, Oscar still carried feelings for her. Meanwhile, Theo woke up and began searching for Oscar. He picked up the turtle and went to their grandmother, who had aged so much that she no longer recognized him. When Oscar finally saw Theo, he was stunned to the point of fainting. Once he regained consciousness, he asked in disbelief, "Is it really you, Theo?" Theo, equally confused, replied, "Who are you? How do you know my name?" Oscar explained patiently that he was Theo's older brother. Theo was amazed. How had his brother grown so much in just a single day? Slowly, through their conversation, they realized the truth. Theo had somehow ended up in 2022. They spoke about the past, about the fight over the torn pages from their mother's notes. Theo showed Oscar a picture of their mother in a red dress, and memories flooded back. Panicked, Theo wanted to return in 1992 because he feared his grandmother's anger if he stayed away too long. He rushed to the roof to jump back through the portal, hoping to return to his own time. But when he threw a stone to test the portal, it didn't disappear. The portal was closed now. It no longer existed in 2022. Theo was restless and confused. He couldn't understand how the portal could just vanish. The idea that he might be trapped in 2022 terrified him. Seeing his brother's worry, Oscar tried to calm him down and explained patiently that time travel was never straightforward. "Theo," he said, "the path you came through to reach here doesn't mean it will take you back. Time doesn't work in a straight line. That portal, it was a one-way door." Theo's eyes widened, panic rising again. "Oscar," thinking carefully, realized they would have to find a new portal if they ever wanted to return from 2022 to 1990. Determined, Oscar began gathering information, deciding to consult his senior professor. Together, the brothers went to meet him. The professor listened carefully and then shook his head. Science and technology have grown a lot by 2022, he said, but something like a time portal is impossible. It cannot exist. Theo's jaw dropped. The modern world, with its inventions and advanced technology, amazed him, but also scared him. He couldn't imagine a world without his familiar past. On the way back, Theo spotted Oscar's phone. Curious, he asked, "What is this thing?" Oscar chuckled and explained that it was a phone, a device used to communicate, but unlike older phones, it had no rotary dial, no wires. Theo was amazed, trying to understand how such a small device could connect people instantly. Oscar gently guided him back to focus. "Theo, we need to find a portal. You have to go back to 1990, remember?" That's when Theo remembered something important. He told Oscar about a handwritten list he had found in their mother's papers. The same papers he had torn to make rockets in his mischief. In his attempt to hide the list and avoid trouble, he had placed it inside a dictionary. Perhaps, he said, the list could help them locate another portal. Curious, the brothers asked their grandmother about the dictionary. She revealed that she had given it to David, the shopkeeper. The next morning, Oscar prepared to visit David, warning Theo to stay at home. But Theo, unable to resist adventure, sneaked out quietly and arrived at a huge shopping mall. The sight of countless gadgets left him speechless. Everything seemed so advanced, so futuristic. Theo couldn't resist trying a VR headset, but accidentally broke it in his excitement. Oscar, arriving soon after, had to compensate for the damage, scolding Theo for his recklessness. Despite the reprimand, they continued to David's departmental store to find the dictionary. David informed them that he had kept it at home. Just then, Alina appeared. Theo froze, staring at her, astonished. How had she grown up to be so beautiful? Alina noticed the young boy and asked curiously, "Who is this child? How does he know my name?" Thinking quickly, Oscar lied, saying, "He's my cousin's son." The conversation shifted smoothly, and soon Alina invited both brothers to her home. There, her son and daughter were busy playing video games. Theo, fascinated by the colorful screens and exciting gameplay, immediately joined in, playing with Alina's son, Zen. Meanwhile, Oscar found the list hidden in the dictionary. "It's time to go home now," he told Theo, but Theo was too engrossed in the games to leave. Seeing this, Alina kindly said, "Let him play a little longer. I'll personally drop him at home." Theo, however, wasn't used to the modern video games. Alina's children teased him, laughing at his confusion. They asked Alexa for time, searched online for moves, while Theo fumbled completely out of his element. Meanwhile, Oscar returned to work, and on the rooftop, he began explaining the list. It contained coordinates and locations of various potential portals. Both brothers tried throwing objects at these locations, hoping to trigger another portal, but nothing happened. Frustrated, Oscar suspected he had made some errors in his calculations and began recalculating everything meticulously. While Oscar worked, Theo asked softly, "Why do you always stay alone? Don't you have any friends? And why haven't you told Alina about your feelings all these years?" Oscar, still focused on the numbers, replied quietly, "Even though Alina is divorced now, I don't think things could work between us." Theo, mischievous and caring, decided to intervene. Without telling Oscar, he used Oscar's phone to send messages inviting David, Alina, and her children over for dinner. When they arrived at the door, Oscar was shocked to see everyone there. Theo grinned mischievously, explaining that he had organized it himself. That evening, as the family sat together, Oscar and Alina began reconnecting. Slowly, old feelings resurfaced. The next day, Alina even took Theo shopping, buying him new clothes. In the fitting room, Theo's playful spirit shone brightly. He ran around, making funny football-style commentary on every outfit, making everyone laugh. Theo's playful antics suddenly sparked a memory in Alina. Her eyes widened as recognition dawned on her face. Could this really be Oscar's little brother, Theo? She ran forward and hugged him tightly. The warmth of her embrace filled with both surprise and affection. "Theo, how is it possible that after all these years, your age hasn't changed?" she asked, her voice trembling with curiosity and amazement. Theo, blinking in confusion, explained as best as he could, "I jumped into a time portal. It brought me straight from 1990 to 2022. Alina's mind struggled to comprehend it. Time travel? Impossible. Yet here he was living, breathing, standing right in front of her. There was no denying the evidence. Alina turned to Oscar for confirmation. Skeptical but intrigued, he decided to demonstrate. He grabbed a stone and threw it from the roof. This time, instead of falling to the ground, the stone bounced back up, hovering midair for a moment before coming down again. Theo's eyes lit up. Proof of the portal was undeniable. Oscar then explained carefully that time portals came in 3 types. The first type allowed direct travel between 2 times, safe and predictable. The second type was unpredictable, taking travelers to unknown times and places without warning. The third type was dangerous, because once entered, there was no way out. Theo had used a first-type portal to arrive safely in 2022, but now they needed to find the correct portal to send him back to 1990. With determination, the group began daily research. Alina started visiting regularly, and her presence brought unexpected joy to Oscar, who found himself dancing in happiness when alone, lost in thought and excitement. Together, the 3 of them, Oscar, Theo, and Alina, worked tirelessly to locate the right portal. Alina, however, felt a pang of worry. She loved her children dearly and feared that changing the past could alter the future, perhaps even preventing her children from being born. Seeing her concern, Oscar promised, "Theo's return won't change your life. I'll do everything to make sure nothing in your timeline is affected." The group brainstormed ways to ensure the timeline remained intact. Theo, recalling the coordinates written by their mother, decided he needed help to decode them. He enlisted the help of Alina's children, knowing that their involvement would ensure the future would remain unchanged. Using the children's input, they managed to find a middle path on the map, which Theo believed was a portal that could take him back to 1990. Excited beyond words, he leapt into the water along this path. But accidentally, Branda and Nathan had to jump with him. When they reached the shore, all 3 were stunned. Instead of returning to the city they knew, they found themselves in a land filled only with mountains. The city wasn't built yet. They had traveled too far back in time. They had landed in 1949, not 1990. Panic and confusion struck. They tried to make sense of what had happened. Theo realized that they had inadvertently used the second type of portal, the unpredictable one that could drop travelers into any random time. Back in 2022, a worried Alina called Oscar to report that Theo and the children were missing. Oscar suspected that Theo had found the portal to 1990, but feared complications. He knew that now they too had to travel back to rescue them. In 1949, the trio faced serious challenges. They had no money, no functioning phones, and, most importantly, the children were hungry. Branda and Nathan quickly thought of a plan. Using their gadgets, they decided to perform a mind-reading magic show to earn money. Nathan positioned himself at a distance, while Branda closed her eyes. Theo stood in front with a board and wrote names on it. Using a wireless earpiece, Nathan fed Branda the names secretly. To the amazed audience, it appeared as though Branda had mysterious powers, reading minds without looking. The crowd was thrilled, applauding loudly, and the trio earned some money. However, their success was short-lived. The police quickly noticed the public performance and informed them that performing without permission was illegal. Seeing the officers approach, Theo quickly signaled Branda and Nathan to escape, and the 3 dashed away as fast as they could. But just as relief seemed close, an unknown man appeared. Before they could react, he kidnapped them and took them to an unfamiliar place. Now, Theo, Branda, and Nathan found themselves in even greater danger than before, trapped in a mysterious location with uncertain fate. Meanwhile, in 2022, Theo and Alina finally found the entrance to the 1990 portal. They held each other's hands tightly and jumped together. Alina felt a strange, magical sensation, as if she were dreaming, yet everything around her felt real. When they arrived in 1990, posters of Theo's disappearance were plastered everywhere, reminding him of how long he had been missing. Back in 1949, the man who had kidnapped the children had taken them to a mysterious gang that operated against the government. The gang leader, a stern-looking man, demanded to know why the children had been brought there. The kidnapper explained, "These children know our secret code." Theo, confused, asked, "Which secret code?" The man replied, "The whistle you used to escape the police. That was the gang's secret code word." Theo's eyes widened in surprise. The whistle was something his grandmother had taught him long ago. Just then, a young woman entered the room, and Theo froze in shock. This was his grandmother, but when she was young. Theo realized that his grandmother had once been a member of this gang and had learned the secret whistles there. He hugged her tightly, not telling anyone that this was his grandmother, knowing they might think he was crazy. Despite being part of a gang that opposed the government, the members cared for people and had no intention of harming Theo. Brenda, or Nathan. For now, the three children were safe. Meanwhile, in 1990, Oscar and Alina were searching for the children at Oscar's house. The house was empty, and suddenly a voice made them stop. They hid quickly and realized it was young Oscar, crying over Theo's disappearance. Seeing this from the future, Oscar's heart ached with sadness and regret. In 1949, the three children began adapting to life with the gang, understanding that returning to their own time immediately might not be possible. Theo's young grandmother was with them, helping him adjust, so it wasn't as difficult for him. Seeing a quiet moment, Theo asked his grandmother to take a photograph with him, Brenda, and Nathan, and told her to keep it carefully even when she grew old. This photo, Theo explained, would one day help connect the past with the future. Indeed, back in 1990, the photo frame in his grandmother's house suddenly changed, showing Theo and the two children with his grandmother. Behind the photo, Theo wrote the coordinates of the time portal, ensuring Oscar and Alina could find them in the future. Oscar and Alina realized they would need to return to 2022 first to reach the correct portal and then travel to 1949 to rescue the children. Once all were safe, they could finally send Theo back to 1990. Oscar and Alina returned to 2022 and used Theo's coordinates to reach 1949. There, Theo told the gang members that his brother Oscar had come to get him, so two of them were ready to assist. Using the special whistle taught by young grandmother, Oscar signaled the gang, and they allowed the group to meet. Alina was overwhelmed with joy seeing her children safe and sound, but Theo hesitated. He no longer wanted to go back. Life in 1949 felt exciting, adventurous, and full of family moments he had never experienced before. Oscar's heart sank at this, but he gently reminded Theo, "I know we fight sometimes, but that doesn't mean we don't love each other. I can't imagine losing you. You don't know how many nights I cried missing you." At that moment, young grandmother appeared, and Oscar was stunned in his silence, unable to speak. They now had to find the time portal back to 2022 to continue their plan. A gang member offered to drive them, and Theo was shocked to recognize the man. This was their grandfather. Soon, they located the portal leading to 2022. Now, Oscar prepared to send Theo back to 1990, to the same construction site where they had found the portal earlier. Theo's heart was heavy. He didn't want to return to 1990, where he felt utterly alone, with no parents and no family around. He turned to Oscar, his voice filled with emotion. "I want to stay with you now. You remind me little by little of Dad, and it feels like family." Oscar, seeing the pain and longing in his little brother's eyes, felt a deep sadness, knowing how much Theo had suffered alone. Oscar hugged Theo tightly, holding him close, his voice full of love and reassurance. "Theo," he said softly, "the 1990 version of me is very lonely. He needs you there more than anything. If you take care of him, I promise you my younger self will also look after you, just like I do now." Theo felt the weight of responsibility on his small shoulders, and though he didn't want to leave, he knew he had to. With a heavy heart, he stepped into the portal and disappeared, returning to 1990. Immediately, Oscar's joy was unstoppable. He ran around the house, laughing and crying with relief. Their grandmother, filled with love and emotion, hugged Theo tightly, showering him with affection. When she asked where he had been, Theo spun a small, clever lie. A gang had kidnapped him. Oscar, still confused and worried about Theo's disappearance, began to consider the possibility that their mother might really have left them. Frustrated and lost in thought, he started throwing their mother's books around in anger. But Theo, now safe in 1990, shared the full story of his incredible time travel adventure with Oscar, even showing him the futuristic phone from 2022. Oscar struggled to believe it at first. How could it be possible? But seeing the phone in Theo's hands, he could no longer deny that something extraordinary had happened. From that moment, both brothers made a vow. No more using the time portal, no more risking the past, and a promise to live happily in the present. Back in 2022, Theo and Oscar were together again. One day, as the doorbell rang, Theo teased Oscar with a grin. "Your girlfriend must be here. Come on, tell her how you feel. She's divorced now, you know." Theo had deliberately waited to say this before, because if he had told Oscar earlier, it might have affected the timeline. Alina's children might never have been born, and her life would have been completely different. Now, the timing was perfect. Everything in the timeline had aligned. Oscar opened the door to find Alina standing there, and at that moment, the story of their lives was ready to take a new, happy turn. The story then flashes back to a very old time, showing a portal opening. From it emerges a woman, their mother, walking into a world where people know almost nothing about science. She is a scientist, and she begins to teach the people around her about science, knowledge that will one day shape the future in remarkable ways. Her presence promises a profound change, ensuring that the future they fought so hard to protect will be bright, full of knowledge and opportunity.
Join next time for another story that makes you think and feel. Until then, stay curious and stay safe.